High on the windswept Altiplano of Bolivia, nearly 13,000 feet above sea level, there's a field of scattered, impossibly precise stone ruins. This is Puma Punku. For centuries, it's presented a profound architectural mystery that just defies any easy explanation. It continues to baffle engineers, archaeologists, and historians. So let's dig in and investigate this incredible architectural enigma.
And that quote, well, it really just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? When you look at the evidence on the ground, the sheer scale and the baffling precision of the stonework, it just seems to belong to another time, or maybe another world entirely. It's a site that really forces you to question everything you think you know about the capabilities of ancient people. And that right there, that's the big question for this whole explainer. The culture that's officially credited with building this site, the Tiwanaku, supposedly had nothing but primitive tools. We're talking stone hammers and maybe some bronze chisels. And yet these ruins suggest a level of technical sophistication that, honestly, we would struggle to replicate today. So how on earth did they do it?
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to explore the site itself, this impossible puzzle of stone. Then we'll do a deep dive, a forensic analysis, into this architecture that seems so far beyond its time. We'll weigh the two competing explanations for how it all got here, look into the idea of a cataclysmic end, and finally, we'll confront the enduring engineering mystery that is Puma Punku. Our investigation starts right here, in a field of stone ruins that look for all the world like they were ripped apart by some tremendous force. You've got these megalithic blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, just strewn about like a child's forgotten toys. It's a scene of total chaos, and yet, every single piece whispers a story of incredible order and design. And it's absolutely crucial to understand the setting. The construction of Puma Punku didn't happen in some lush, resource-rich valley. No, it happened here, on a high, dry, treeless plateau. This environment makes every single part of the project, from quarrying the stone, to moving it, to building with it, exponentially more difficult, and honestly, exponentially more mysterious. All right, let's put on our detective hats and really examine the evidence. We're gonna look at these stones like a forensic investigator, because the details carved into them are our primary clues. This isn't just about big rocks, it's about a level of craftsmanship that seems completely and utterly out of place for its time. The builders used two main types of stone. The bigger platform blocks are red sandstone, but all the really complex, detailed work, that was done on andesite and diorite. These are incredibly hard volcanic rocks. I mean, think about this for a second. On the Mohs scale of hardness, the only thing harder than diorite is a diamond. So the first question you have to ask is, what kind of primitive tools could possibly carve and shape a stone that hard? And the precision of the work is where this mystery just goes off the charts. The blocks feature perfect, almost computer-like right angles. We're finding surfaces that are machined so smooth you could use them as a tabletop, and edges so fine you could probably cut yourself on them. And then you have these complex interior cuts and perfectly straight, evenly spaced drill holes that go right through solid diorite. It's just mind-boggling. You know, the most famous examples of this precision are the H-Blocks. Now, these aren't just simple bricks. You have to understand each one is a complex, standardized, three-dimensional piece designed to interlock perfectly with all the others. This implies advanced concepts like prefabrication, modular design, engineering ideas we associate with modern industry, not the ancient world. It's like they were building with a giant, ancient Lego set. Here's another piece of absolute architectural genius: the use of these keystone or I-clamps. To join these colossal stones together without any mortar, the builders carved these intricate, recessed grooves into adjacent blocks. Then, they would pour molten metal into the channel, creating a solid metal I-shaped clamp that locked the stones together with incredible strength. This is a highly sophisticated technique, and you actually see it in other ancient megalithic sites all over the world. Now, to really grasp the incredible scale of this project, try to wrap your head around this number. The single largest stone slab found at Puma Punku is estimated to weigh 131 metric tons. That's the equivalent of about, 85 cars? And remember, this massive block was quarried, somehow transported over 10 miles, and then placed with precision, all in a high-altitude desert with no trees for rollers and no animals strong enough to move that kind of weight. How? So all of this seemingly impossible architecture leads us right to the central debate. Who were the builders, and just how did they pull this off? Two profoundly different schools of thought have popped up to try and explain Puma Punku.
You know, what's really fascinating is that this isn't a new mystery. Listen to this account from a Spanish conquistador, writing way back in 1549. He says that when he asked the local people about the ruins, they just laughed at him. They told him the structures were ancient long before the Incas even existed and that they were built, get this, in a single night. So here are the two primary explanations, side by side. On one hand, you have the mainstream archaeological view. It says the Tiwanaku culture built Puma Punku sometime between 500 and 1000 AD, and that they painstakingly created these shapes with simple tools over many, many generations. But on the other hand, you have an alternative theory. It argues that the evidence of precision just doesn't match that toolkit. It proposes that the builders must have used some form of lost, advanced technology. Maybe power tools, sonic drills, or even a sophisticated type of ancient concrete. And we really can't ignore the perspective of the indigenous Aymara people who live there today. Their oral traditions, passed down through countless generations, are very clear. Their ancestors did not build Puma Punku. When you ask them who did, they point to the sky and say, Los dioses, the gods, beings who came from above. Okay, so if the who and the how weren't complicated enough, let's talk about the when. The dating of Puma Punku is just as controversial as its construction methods, adding a whole other layer of mystery. And the way the site was destroyed, it really hints at a sudden, violent end, not just a slow decay over time. I mean, just look at this timeline. It shows you how wide the disagreement really is. Mainstream archaeology places the site firmly in the Tiwanaku period. But back in the 1940s, an archaeologist named Arthur Poznański used archaeoastronomy, basically studying how ancient people understood the stars. By calculating the temple's alignment and accounting for the slow change in the Earth's tilt, he calculated that it had to have been built around 15,000 BC, a date that would completely rewrite human history. Poznański also had a theory for the site's destruction. He didn't think it just slowly fell into ruin. Instead, he saw evidence of a single, massive, cataclysmic event, maybe a huge earthquake that triggered a devastating flood from nearby Lake Titicaca. This, he argued, would explain why these massive interlocking stones are now scattered and buried in thick layers of mud and sand, a chaotic jumble that looks like the aftermath of some kind of biblical flood. So where does that leave us? Well, we're left with a collection of these incredible artifacts and a set of competing stories that they don't seem to fit together. Puma Punku remains one of the planet's greatest unsolved engineering mysteries. It's a direct challenge to all of our assumptions about the past. And these are the questions that are still just hanging there in the thin mountain air. The how of the tools and the transportation, it's a fundamental problem. The who of the builders. Were they Tiwanaku artisans, a lost high-tech civilization, or the gods from the legends? We just don't know. And finally, the why. What was this place even for? A temple? A fortress? An observatory? The true purpose is a mystery that's been lost to time. You know, this quote from the researcher Brien Foerster, I think it perfectly sums up the enduring allure of this place. Puma Punku is not a site that gives up its secrets easily. It's a place that asks more questions than it answers, and it just draws in anyone with a curious mind and a fascination for what humanity, or perhaps something else, is capable of. And that's really the thought I want to leave you with. Puma Punku does not exist in a vacuum. If a culture with this level of engineering sophistication existed on Earth so long ago, capable of shaping one of the hardest stones on the planet with machine-like precision, then where did they come from? And maybe more importantly, where did they go? What else might be buried out there, under the sands of time, just waiting for us to find it?